Welcome back to NADA 2022, Day 2 in Las Vegas, Nevada. Come visit us at the DrivenIQ Booth, number 6943N. We have the pleasure to have with us one of our partners with Traver Connect, Bob Gower.
Nice to be here, Paul.
Great to see you, man.
Good to see you.
So these folks are experts in the area of BDC. You have dealers across the country that rely on your services, and I'll give you an example. Okay, we had a dealership that went on the website because they were struggling with BDC. They weren't able to handle all their calls, so they found Traver Connect, and from then it just became magic. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you guys do?
Yeah. So first of all, let me say that this is one of the coolest guys I've ever met in the industry. We go back a long way as far as our automotive experience. And I got to tell you that he's helped us connect with dealers that we've become really close integrated partners with providing them solutions. So, you know, the biggest problem today in service is we're overwhelmed with calls, especially with COVID.
Yeah.
And even before COVID, you know, you get 7 times more calls in service than you get in sales. And to handle that volume, you know, you have to either give it to the lane, or you got to create a BDC, or you have your cashiers answering the phone. And at the end of the day, they're overwhelmed with calls and they're undermanned to be able to give that customer the experience that that customer really deserves. So what we do with those stores is we help take the overflow calls.
Okay.
You know, we take their after-hour calls, but in some of the stores, we take all those appointment-based calls. You know, our job is just to simply create an environment that's helpful, friendly, and kind, and to get that customer through a flow in about 3 or 4 minutes, to load the shop, to answer all their questions, to introduce things like recommendations for services based on time mileage recommendations from the OEM or the dealership. And that really sets the experience up for that customer when they come in. So first of all, there's no surprises.
Yeah.
So it's not just an oil change, it may be an 80K. And I'm not going to be there for 45 minutes. I might be there for a few hours. I might be a drop-off then instead of a waiter. So we create an environment before they get there that the customer, we set this experience where there's no surprises. And in doing that, it relieves the dealership of them handling those calls and multitasking. As you guys know that run a service department, it's chaos most of the day. And there's lots of people in that lane, and there are people multitasking, trying to handle the phone and handle the customer, handling the multi-point inspections, getting back with the status updates. And what we do is we give that time back to the advisors so they can be more effective with those customers face to face.
Now, because there are less people typically in the store now, the basics of what you have to do to properly service the customer haven't changed. In order to best serve the customer, you still need to do a walk around. You still need to do proper inspections. But the problem is, okay, so maybe before I had 10 people, now I have 8. But I've got the same volume of customers coming in because people are holding on to their cars longer. They're not necessarily buying the new cars, so they need to service it. So now you've got these people coming into your drive. They expect attention. Okay, I made my appointment. I'm in front of you. I can't wait for you to pick up the phone. You know, for you to pick up the phone and talk to another customer who's not there. All right. The people that are on the phone calling in, look, I'm busy, I'm working, I've taken the time to reach out to your store. I want you to pick up the call. And I don't want you to pick up the call and say, oh, I'm going to have to call you back, or I can't talk to you now. If you can't talk to me, you shouldn't have picked up the phone. So it's a double whammy. So when you have someone else that can field those calls professionally, and I watched your video, by the way, where the customer says when they spoke to the BDC rep on the phone, they thought they were actually talking to somebody in the store.
Yeah, they like to meet those people when they come in because it's a real connection.
Right.
And really, if you talk, you know, when you're talking about being in the people business, it's got to be high tech and it has to be high touch.
Yeah.
So you can't do one without the other. So a lot of our customers today want to be confident that they've scheduled a good appointment. They know why they're coming, when they're coming, and that we took the time to walk them through the process. So when they get there are no surprises, and they feel that they don't have to check on us again to see if we really do have a valid appointment in that store. And I think that's a big part of it. I think the other big part of it is the OEMs today are looking for retention, and
The big R word.
and it starts with the first service visit,
Yeah.
and it starts with, like, the dentist office does a better job than we do today.
Unbelievable.
So every 6 months, we reach out to those sold customers and we bring them back in, or through that live conversation, we get good feedback. We know why they're not coming. We know they're defecting in 5 months, not 15 months.
Right.
And there's keys in being able to do outbound more effectively. And most stores are so overwhelmed with just trying to handle inbound, they really don't get to outbound.
It's
And
crazy,
retention,
isn't it?
as we all know, is the key to this business. It is the key. We start with about 80% retention the first 2 years, and 5 years it drops off to like 31%. So if we
Insane.
could keep that retention at 80% across those 5 years, a 200 car a month store could sell easily 500 cars. And that's the real key is to retention.
If they service the car through the ownership cycle, they're, what is it, 5 or 8 times more likely to buy the next car, even if they didn't buy the one they're servicing with you now.
So I think that's the real key. The key is that you really have to connect with your customer. You have to have a relationship with that customer, and you have to have the time and the focus. So when we do it out of our call center in Dallas, Texas. They're focused just on that 3-4 minute conversation. There's no distractions. So even when we see BDCs today, they still have distractions inside the store
Yeah.
that we don't have. But we also have tools that enable a BDC in a store to be able to do what we do and be more productive, give BDC agents automated tools instead of manual tools. So believe it or not, BDCs today in stores still are using things like Excel to track all this data. And our data tracks it from the phone telephony platform all the way through the end of the call and measures everything automatically. So there's no manipulation. There's no BDM spending most of their day just collecting data.
Right,
They can
right.
coach, they can drive that business, they can manage that business as opposed to keeping track of it. So, there are still those tools for BDCs today, in my opinion, doing this 36 years are antiquated.
36 years.
You cannot be doing this in Excel, folks out there. You got to look for a good tool. There are just a handful out there, but you got to have that pursuit to go help your people grow so you can grow your business. You can't do that without growing your people.
Wow, 36 years, man. We're
I know,
old guys
that's what
in
I
this
said.
business.
I said, we have a few matches. Kind of fits into the drivenmatch.com, right?
Now, here's another thing. We talk about customer service experience. Now, there are people that look at a dealership or a store as, oh, they're going to try to sell me something, right? We look at it a whole different way. It's not that we're trying to sell anybody anything. We're properly servicing the customer because as a consumer, when I'm driving my car, let's take, for instance, a set of wiper blades. I may know when it's raining that the wiper blades are bad, but guess what? When I go in to service my car, I'm not thinking, it's not raining. I'm not thinking about that.
That's right.
So I go in. If you don't have the time because you're inundated with too much stuff to do, you're not going to be able to check for things like wiper blades, light bulbs, simple things. And we're not talking about things that cost a ton of money or maybe even make you a lot of money at the store. But guess what? If they're not done properly, when I drive out of that store, let's say the next day it starts to rain, now I'm reminded that, oh man, these wipers are horrible. I just had my car in the shop. Why didn't these guys tell me? See how that switch happens? It's not.
It happens
I
to all of
forgot.
us because we're all consumers, right?
Yeah.
So I think the real goal, when we look at time mileage recommendations,
Yeah.
at the very beginning of a call, we remind the customer there are certain things that are recommended. We're not trying to sell them on it. We're just trying to make sure that we have 100% of the time that we're upfront with them about what they need and let them make the decision.
Yeah.
So, back in the days where we would talk about penetration in our business, no matter what we were talking about,
Yeah.
there was always a penetration number we were trying to hit.
Correct.
The reality is you'll always know what your penetration number is if it's 100% offer on every one of those services that are required. Then whatever that penetration rate is, it is.
It's real.
So you don't have to guess what it should be. What you really are driving is 100% offer.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you look through that service lane, I think I saw numbers pre-COVID that said 56% of our customers that go through the lane come out under service. And it's because we don't have time.
Right.
We don't have the time to look at, or if we find the work, we don't have time to do the work, or we're not looking for the work because we're jammed up with just back-to-back appointments, or we're technicians are too short. You know, by the way, that's been a problem forever, just in case you think that's a new one. It will always be a problem getting good people. Yeah. So if you look at the process, though, the process has to be a process that can be duplicated, and it can be done by everybody that touches the process, not just once in a while when somebody good touches it. So that's what we're all about. We're all about either helping do it for the dealer, helping the dealer do it better, giving them better tools to do it if they want to do it, and make recommendations and processes on how they can better enable their teams to do it. But, you know, at the end of the day, not doing it, I would say, is not an option. Not doing something in that drive, especially today with our customers, that we really want to make sure that that experience is high level. 2/3 of our customers still don't use us after they buy the car.
Right.
So we have to turn that around. I mean, we don't need to go find more business. We just need to take care of the business we already have.
It's not rocket science.
We know that. That's simple.
Now, speaking of good people, we have John Fraser tuning in. Says, hey, two of my favorite guys.
Hi, John. How you doing?
I see LinkedIn user. Excellent and relevant discussion. LinkedIn user is probably Lamont. For some reason, there's some privacy settings on his computer. He always comes through here as LinkedIn user. And then when I look on LinkedIn, and then his name comes through.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, you know, guys like John Fraser are great partners with us because they're engaged. We talk weekly, John and I, just to discuss what's going on in his market, what are his specific needs, how can my team help him out. And I think that's really the key in any of these processes that you put in place, is to have a partner that you can bounce things off of, that they're engaged in that process. It's not just write a check and walk away. As we all know, we have to have some skin in the game. And John's a great partner that has a lot of skin in the game with us, so we appreciate him.
Awesome. Well, Bob, thank you very much, man.
Thanks, Paul. It's great catching up with you.
Have a great
You guys
show.
have a good NADA.